Iran's recent statements directed toward Israel have significantly raised tensions across the Middle East. Iranian officials have issued strong warnings, suggesting that any hostile action from Israel would receive a serious and powerful response. These statements were delivered through official speeches, media interviews, and public declarations from senior political and military figures in Iran. The tone of these warnings has attracted global attention because they indicate that the situation between the two countries is becoming more sensitive and unpredictable. Analysts believe that such threats are not only political messages, but also strategic signals meant to demonstrate Iran's military readiness and its determination to defend its interests in the region. These developments come at a time when relations between Iran and Israel are already extremely strained. For many years, both countries have accused each other of actions that threaten regional stability. Israel has repeatedly claimed that Iran is attempting to expand its influence across the Middle East by supporting allied groups and strengthening its military presence in nearby countries. Iran, on the other hand, argues that its actions are defensive and that it is responding to pressure and threats coming from Israel and its allies. Because of this long-standing rivalry, even a single strong statement from either side can quickly increase fears of a larger confrontation. Another factor that makes Iran's threat more significant is the broader geopolitical context surrounding the region. The Middle East is already experiencing multiple conflicts and political tensions, and any escalation between Iran and Israel could easily draw in other countries or regional actors. Experts often warn that when powerful nations exchange direct threats, the risk of miscalculation becomes much higher. A small incident, misunderstanding, or unexpected military move could quickly escalate into a much larger crisis. This is why Iran's recent warnings toward Israel have been closely monitored not only by governments in the region, but also by international observers and global security analysts. Iran's leadership has also emphasized that it possesses advanced military capabilities that it could use if necessary. Officials have referred to missile systems, regional alliances, and defensive strategies that they claim are designed to respond to any external aggression. While these statements are often part of political messaging, they still contribute to the growing sense of tension and uncertainty surrounding the situation. Military experts often analyze such comments carefully because they can reveal how countries are positioning themselves strategically during periods of conflict or rivalry. The reaction to Iran's warnings has been immediate across diplomatic and security circles. Governments, defense analysts, and international organizations have begun discussing the potential consequences if the rhetoric between Iran and Israel continues to intensify. Many observers believe that such strong language can create a dangerous environment where both sides feel pressured to demonstrate strength, which may lead to further military preparations or strategic moves. This atmosphere of uncertainty is exactly why Iran's threat has become one of the most talked about developments in current Middle Eastern geopolitics. Following Iran's strong warnings, Israel reacted quickly by increasing its military readiness and strengthening security measures across several key areas. Israeli defense officials began closely monitoring the situation, evaluating potential risks, and preparing for different scenarios that could emerge if tensions continued to rise. The Israeli government has long maintained a policy of responding firmly to any threat that could endanger its national security, and Iran's recent statements were treated with serious concern by Israeli leadership and military commanders. Reports from regional observers indicate that Israel has increased surveillance operations and intelligence monitoring related to Iranian activities in the region. Israeli intelligence agencies are believed to be closely tracking movements connected to Iranian forces and groups that are considered aligned with Iran's strategic interests. These intelligence efforts are considered a crucial part of Israel's security strategy because they allow the country to anticipate potential threats before they escalate into direct confrontations. At the same time, Israel has reportedly strengthened its defensive systems and military preparedness. Military bases, air defense units, and strategic installations have been placed on higher levels of alert in order to ensure that the country is ready to respond if necessary. Israel has invested heavily in advanced defense technologies over the years, and officials often emphasize that these systems are designed to detect and intercept potential attacks before they can cause serious damage. The recent rise in tensions has encouraged Israeli defense planners to review these systems and confirm that all units are prepared for rapid response. Israeli political leaders have also addressed the situation publicly, sending clear messages about their country's position. Several officials have stated that Israel will not tolerate threats to its security and will take appropriate action to protect its citizens if the situation demands it. These statements are often intended to serve both as reassurance to the Israeli public and as a signal to international audiences that Israel is determined to maintain its security posture despite growing regional pressures. Another important element of Israel's response involves cooperation with allies and partners. Israel maintains strong strategic relationships with several countries, particularly the United States, and security coordination often becomes more active during times of rising tension. Discussions between military officials and diplomatic representatives may include intelligence sharing, strategic planning, and assessments of how regional developments could impact broader international security interests. The rapid nature of Israel's response reflects the seriousness with which the country views threats from Iran. Because the two nations have a long history of hostility and political rivalry, Israeli leaders often treat Iranian statements and actions as part of a larger strategic competition. Every move, statement, or military adjustment is carefully analyzed within the broader context of regional power dynamics. This environment of caution and preparedness is one of the main reasons why Israel's response to Iran's warning has drawn significant attention from global observers and geopolitical analysts. Israel's concerns about Iran are largely centered on what Israeli officials describe as a growing security challenge that could directly affect the country's safety and stability. For many years, Israeli leaders have repeatedly warned that Iran's military development, especially its missile capabilities and strategic partnerships in the region, could pose a significant threat. These concerns are not limited to immediate military actions, but also include long-term strategic shifts that could alter the balance of power in the Middle East. One of the major points frequently raised by Israeli officials is Iran's development of advanced missile technology. According to Israeli defense analysts, Iran has invested heavily in improving the range, accuracy, and capability of its missile systems over the past decade. Israeli leaders argue that such developments could allow Iran to project military power across the region, which they believe could increase the risk of future confrontations. Because Israel is a relatively small country geographically, its defense planners place strong emphasis on early warning systems and rapid response strategies whenever potential missile threats are discussed. Another major concern for Israel involves Iran's relationships with various groups and allies in the Middle East. Israeli officials often claim that Iran provides support to several organizations that oppose Israel politically and militarily. These relationships are viewed by Israeli leadership as part of a broader regional strategy by Iran to expand its influence and challenge Israel's position in the region. As a result, Israeli intelligence agencies closely monitor these networks and regularly assess whether they could be involved in activities that might threaten Israeli territory or security interests. Israeli leaders also emphasize that the security situation in the Middle East is extremely interconnected. Developments in one country can quickly influence events in neighboring regions. Because Iran maintains diplomatic and strategic connections with multiple countries and groups, Israeli policymakers believe that any escalation involving Iran could potentially spread across several areas at the same time. This possibility creates additional challenges for Israel's defense planning, as security officials must consider multiple potential fronts and scenarios simultaneously. These concerns are often discussed not only in military circles, but also in Israel's political debates and public discourse. Israeli politicians frequently address the issue in speeches, parliamentary discussions, and international forums. The message that is often repeated is that Israel must remain vigilant and proactive when dealing with potential threats. According to many Israeli officials, waiting for a threat to fully develop could place the country in a vulnerable position, which is why they argue for maintaining strong defensive and intelligence capabilities at all times. International analysts also pay close attention to Israel's perspective on Iran because it plays an important role in shaping regional policies and diplomatic relations. Israel often shares its security concerns with allies and partners in order to gain support or cooperation in addressing broader regional challenges. These discussions can influence international debates about sanctions, defense strategies, and diplomatic negotiations involving Iran. The issue has therefore become a major topic not only within Middle Eastern politics, but also in global security conversations, where policymakers attempt to understand the long-term implications of Iran's military and strategic development. The involvement of the United States has become a major factor in the ongoing tensions between Iran and Israel. As one of Israel's closest allies, the United States has long maintained a strategic partnership with the country, particularly in areas related to defense, intelligence sharing, and regional security. Whenever tensions rise in the Middle East, Washington closely monitors the situation and often plays an important role in shaping diplomatic and military responses. In recent developments, the United States has expressed strong support for Israel's right to defend itself against any potential threats. American officials have repeatedly emphasized that maintaining stability in the Middle East is a key priority for U.S. foreign policy. Because of this, the U.S. government regularly communicates with Israeli leaders to discuss the evolving security situation and to coordinate strategies that could help prevent further escalation. Military cooperation between the United States and Israel has also been an important part of this relationship. Over the years, the two countries have conducted joint military exercises, shared advanced defense technology, and collaborated on intelligence operations aimed at monitoring threats in the region. During periods of rising tension with Iran, these forms of cooperation often become more visible and active. Defense officials from both countries frequently hold meetings to exchange information and assess potential risks related to Iranian military activities or regional developments. Another important aspect of U.S. involvement is its broader influence in Middle Eastern geopolitics. The United States maintains military bases and strategic partnerships across several countries in the region. This presence allows Washington to monitor security developments closely and respond quickly if necessary. Because Iran's actions are often viewed through the lens of regional power dynamics, U.S. policymakers regularly analyze how Iranian strategies could affect not only Israel, but also other allies and partners in the area. Diplomatic pressure has also been a significant tool used by the United States in dealing with Iran. American leaders have often attempted to influence Iran's behavior through international negotiations, economic sanctions, and diplomatic discussions with global partners. These measures are frequently presented as efforts to discourage actions that could destabilize the region or lead to military conflict. At the same time, U.S. officials often stress the importance of dialogue and diplomacy as ways to manage tensions and prevent situations from escalating beyond control. The United States also plays a major role in shaping international opinion about developments in the Middle East. Statements from American leaders are closely watched by governments, analysts, and media organizations around the world. When Washington expresses concern about Iran's actions or signals support for Israel's security, it can influence how other countries respond to the situation. This global influence makes the U.S. position a critical element in the complex geopolitical landscape surrounding the Iran-Israel tensions. The possibility of a wider regional conflict is one of the biggest concerns surrounding the rising tensions between Iran and Israel. Many political analysts and security experts believe that if the confrontation between the two countries continues to intensify, it could easily extend beyond a direct dispute and begin affecting multiple countries across the Middle East. The region already has a complex network of alliances, rivalries, and ongoing conflicts, which means that any major escalation could quickly involve additional actors. One reason experts worry about a broader conflict is the number of countries that have strong political or strategic relationships with either Iran or Israel. Iran maintains close ties with several regional partners and groups, while Israel also has important alliances with countries that share similar security concerns. If a direct confrontation were to occur, these alliances could potentially draw other parties into the situation, transforming a bilateral dispute into a much larger regional crisis. Another factor that increases the risk of a wider conflict is the strategic importance of the Middle East in global geopolitics. The region is home to critical trade routes, energy resources, and international shipping lanes that are essential for the global economy. Any instability or military confrontation in these areas could disrupt oil supplies, trade flows, and economic stability around the world. Because of this, governments and international organizations closely monitor any developments that could threaten the security of the region. Military experts also warn about the possibility of rapid escalation once tensions reach a certain level. In modern conflicts, advanced technology, missile systems, and rapid response military capabilities mean that situations can evolve extremely quickly. A single incident, such as a strike on a military installation or an attack on strategic infrastructure, could trigger retaliatory actions from multiple sides. When countries feel that their security or national interests are at stake, they may respond with force, increasing the likelihood of further escalation. In addition to military concerns, there are also political and humanitarian implications that could arise if a regional conflict were to occur. Large-scale instability could lead to displacement of civilian populations, disruption of public services, and economic difficulties for countries already facing significant challenges. Humanitarian organizations often warn that conflicts in the Middle East can have long-lasting effects on local populations, infrastructure, and regional stability. Because of these risks, international observers frequently emphasize the importance of careful decision-making during periods of high tension. Governments, diplomatic institutions, and security organizations often analyze every development closely in order to understand how the situation might evolve. The possibility that a localized confrontation could spread across borders is one of the main reasons why the current tensions between Iran and Israel are being followed so closely by policymakers and global security experts. As tensions between Iran and Israel continue to rise, many international leaders and organizations have begun urging both sides to exercise restraint and avoid actions that could further escalate the situation. Governments across Europe, Asia, and other parts of the world have expressed concern that the current developments could potentially lead to greater instability in the Middle East if diplomatic efforts are not prioritized. Because the region plays such an important role in global security and economic stability, many countries are encouraging both parties to remain cautious and avoid decisions that might intensify the conflict. International organizations have also become involved in addressing the growing tension. Diplomatic institutions and global forums often serve as platforms where leaders can discuss strategies for reducing hostility and preventing misunderstandings between rival nations. These discussions typically focus on encouraging dialogue, promoting negotiation, and emphasizing the importance of peaceful conflict resolution. Many policymakers believe that maintaining open communication channels between Iran and Israel could help prevent the situation from spiraling into a larger confrontation. Another major reason for the calls for restraint is the recognition that military escalation often produces consequences that are difficult to control. Even limited confrontations can create a chain reaction of responses from multiple countries, especially in regions where alliances and rivalries are deeply interconnected. Because of this, world leaders frequently emphasize that diplomacy and negotiation should remain the primary tools for resolving disputes, particularly when tensions involve powerful nations with significant military capabilities. Several governments have also highlighted the importance of international law and global stability when discussing the situation. They argue that respecting diplomatic norms and avoiding aggressive actions can help prevent further destabilization in an already fragile region. When countries choose diplomatic solutions instead of military responses, it often creates opportunities for mediation, negotiations, and potential agreements that could reduce tensions over time. Media coverage and global public opinion have also played a role in shaping the international response. News outlets around the world are closely following developments between Iran and Israel, reporting on military movements, official statements, and diplomatic efforts. As information spreads rapidly through global media platforms, public awareness of the situation continues to grow, increasing pressure on political leaders to pursue solutions that prioritize stability and conflict prevention. Diplomatic discussions often involve not only the countries directly involved, but also international partners and regional actors who may have influence over the situation. Through negotiations, mediation efforts, and political dialogue, these actors attempt to encourage both Iran and Israel to avoid steps that might worsen the crisis. The overall goal of these diplomatic efforts is to reduce tensions, create opportunities for communication, and prevent the current situation from developing into a larger conflict that could affect the entire region.